Welcome back to Crossover Commander, where we show you how to take your favorite pop culture characters and cross them through the blind eternities so that they can command your deck with style. I'd like to send a huge shout out to my patrons, Deface and Zephyr at my Adept tier, and then Nitron at my Knight tier. This deck's for you, buddy. Let's kick this portal into overdrive, shall we? The Super Saiyans of legend were an invincible warrior race. I am their son, and at long last I have risen to claim my birthright. I have stepped into the ranks of greatness. I will see you bow before your prince. Now, if we think about Vegeta as a character in terms of the colors of magic, we come to a very unique crossroads. He is definitely a green, because of his survival of the fittest mentality and the need to be the strongest. He also fits with red due to his anger and rage and passion for the fight. But here's the controversial one. I feel that he fits with white as well, because he's about establishing his own order in the universe, whether that's on a larger scale or just in a confined scale. I'd like to present Vegeta, Breaker of the Coil, for 1, a red, a green, and a white. He's a legendary Saiyan, and he says your opponents can't cast spells during combat, and whenever a creature you control deals damage to a player, go to each creature that player controls. So the rule 0 and power level for this deck is guaranteed to go over 9,000 and can win as early as turn 4, but will beat your opponents into submission regularly by turn 10. Pride in our Saiyan blood is all the strategy we need, and a transformation or two won't hurt. Vegeta is a ruthless fighter and will rip through your opponent's battlefields while sowing chaos in his wake in order to claim victory. This is the perfect time to remind you that this is a crossover themed build. With that being said, crucial cards for the theme will be added regardless of price. Cards that are not essential to fit the theme will be made as budget friendly as possible. Alright, let's power up through this mana base so we can get to the good shit. We've got Carpulsan Forest, Crowsand Verge, Myriad Landscape, Spectator Seating, Sunpetal Grove, Rootbound Crag, Razor Verge Thicket, and Rogue's Passage. Ending with a Command Tower, 6 plains, 7 mountains, and 14 forests. And here's our ramp package. We got a Soul Ring, a Wayfarer's Bauble, One with Nature, Ordeal of Nylea, and Arcane Signet, Nature's Embrace, New Horizons, and Traverse the Outlands. Now, if you notice something about our ramp package here, 3 of our ramp spells actually double as a boost to Vegeta as well. And then to make sure our bag of tricks is full, we've got Keen Sense and Sixth Sense, both for a single green mana. They both do the same thing. Whenever a creature enchanted with this deals combat damage to an opponent, you may draw a card. And then we've got Triumph of Ferocity and Enchantress's Presence. So Triumph of Ferocity, at the beginning of your upkeep, you'll draw an additional card for having the greatest power among creatures, which we will. And then Enchantress's Presence gives us an extra card every time we play an enchantment, which we'll be doing a lot of. Vegeta may be arrogant, but he is a very strategic fighter and understands the importance of a well-placed ally. So to that point, we have Eldamari's Call for a green and a white. To search your library for a creature card, reveal it and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Then we have Uncage the Menagerie for X and 2 green. Search your library for up to X creature cards with different names that each have converted mana cost X. Reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle your library. Then we've got Court of Calling for X and 3 green. Search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost X or less and put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Then we've got Primal Command for 3 and 2 green. You choose one, target player gains 7 life, put put target non-creature permanent on top of its owner's library. Target player shuffles his or her graveyard into his or her library, or search your library for a creature card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your library. Vegeta's best ally is obviously going to be his family. We start with Bulma for 3, a red and a white. She's a legendary angel artificer, as I'm sure Vegeta thinks of her. And she has flying and first strike with all of her gadgets. Whenever an aura or an equipment you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you may return that card to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. That way you're never running out of gas. And then we've got Bula for a green and a white. His baby girl says whenever you cast an enchantment spell, you gain 1 life and draw a card. Then we have Trunks for a red and a green. This legendary kid says whenever he attacks, you may add 2 red mana to your mana pool, or you can tap him to add a green. And then Future Trunks is for 5 and a red. And when Future Trunks enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an equipment card and put it onto the battlefield. If you do, shuffle your library. Whenever Trunks attacks for the first time each turn, untap him and all samurais you control, which that's not going to be a thing. After this phase, there is an additional combat phase, and his sword is going to be Helm of the Host. For 4 generic mana, at the beginning of your combat on your turn, create a token that's a copy of equipped creature, except that token isn't legendary if equipped creature is legendary, and that token gains haste. Now, Trunks is the only person that Vegeta would be willing to spend his spotlight with, so that's why he has an infinite combo in this deck. Now, his best allies are definitely his family, but Vegeta's not one to forget where he comes from, and to that end we acknowledge his past, with Nappa, the Demon Fang. For a red and a green, he has Pack Tactics. Whenever Nappa attacks, if you attacked with creatures with total power 6 or greater this combat, attacking creatures get +1/+0 until end of turn. And for 2, a red and a green, you can double his power. And then we've got Ghost Nappa, because I had to. For 1 and 2 white, Ghost Nappa has flying, lifelink, and protection from vampires, because why not? And when Ghost Nappa's power and toughness are each equal to the number of permanents you control that are either spirits or enchantments, we're going to have a lot of enchantments in this deck, so he's going to be ridiculously strong as a ghost. And then we got the Cybermen, because why not? Then we have Life and Limb as part of one half of the Cybermen construction, and Spore Mound is the other to create an army of Cybermen if we need it. And then we have Vegeta's little brother, Tarble, for 1 and a green. He's got Constellation. Whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a land card from among them and put that card into your hand. Put the rest onto the bottom of the library in a random order. Then we've got Kaba for 1 and 2 white. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, you draw a card. Then we've got Kale for 1, a green and a white. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, you draw a card. And then we've got Caulifla for 1 and 2 green. Whenever you play an enchantment spell, you may draw a card. These guys will just kind of help the overall game plan, and Vegeta does have kind of a small special spot in his heart for his other Saiyans. Alright, so to really get this feeling like a Vegeta deck, let's look at his lust for power. We start with the Healing Chamber for 1 generic mana. This artifact says whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, if it had counters on it, put those counters onto the Healing Chamber. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, if the Healing Chamber has counters on it, you may move all counters from the Healing Chamber onto the target creature. Then we have Forced Adaptation for 1 green. It says enchant creature at the beginning of your upkeep. Put a +1/+1 counter on enchanted creature. Then we've got Messenger Speed for 1 red. It says enchanted creature has trample and haste. Then we have Evolutionary Escalation for 1 and a green. At the beginning of your upkeep, put 3 +1/+1 counters on target creature you control, and 3 +1/+1 counters on target creature an opponent controls. Then we've got Goblin War Paint for 1 and a red. Enchanted creature has +2/+2 and has haste. Then we have Canopy Cover for 1 and a green. Enchanted creature can't be blocked except by creatures with flying or reach. An enchanted creature can't be the target of a spell or an ability your opponents control. Then we have Alpha Authority for 1 and a green. Enchanted creature has hexproof and can't be blocked by more than one creature. And then Asha's Favor for 2 and a white. Enchanted creature has flying, first strike, and vigilance. And then with Shield of the Oversoul for 2 and a Selesnya. It says as long as enchanted creature is green, it gets +1/+1 and has indestructible. And as long as enchanted creature is white, it gets +1/+1 and has flying. And Vegeta's both, so this is going to be an awesome boost for him. Then we have Hydra's Growth for 2 and a green. It says when Hydra's Growth enters the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on enchanted creature, and at the beginning of your upkeep, double the number of 1/1 counters on enchanted creature. This is going to be his kind of continual power-up. And then Snake Umbra for 2 and a green says enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has whenever this creature deals combat damage, you may draw a card. And then we have Momentum for 2 and a green. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may put a growth counter on Momentum, and enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each growth counter on Momentum. And then we have Indomitable Might for 3 and a green. That's Flash, and enchanted creature gets +3/+3, and enchanted creature's controller may have it assign its combat damage as though it weren't blocked. So it's a nice way to kind of get pseudo unblockable. And then we have On Sarah's Wings for 3 and a white. It has enchanted creature is legendary, gets +1/+1, has flying, vigilance, and lifelink. Then we have Bear Umbra for 2 and 2 green. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2, and when this creature attacks, untap all lands you control. Then we have Armored Ascension for 3 and a white. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each planes you have, and then has flying as well. To make sure we bring a swift end to our opponents, we start out with Vandal Blast. Now, it does have a casting cost of 1 red, but normally we'll be paying the overload cost of 4 and a red to destroy all target artifacts you don't control. And then we have Privileged Position to remind them of our Saiyan heritage for 2 and 3 Selesnya. Other permanents you control have hexproof, so our plans won't be able to be touched. And then we have Asceticism for 3 and a green. Creatures you control can't be the target of spells or abilities your opponents control to give us an extra layer of protection. And we can regenerate target creatures for 1 and a green. And then Blazing Salvo for 1 red is a little contingency plan in case our Cybermen get out of control. It deals 3 damage to target creature, unless that creature's controller has Blazing Salvo deal 5 damage to him or her. So it's just gonna deal 3 damage, and it can work in a pinch to do some final damage to an opponent in this as well. Now Vegeta has a couple of combos up his sleeve. To start with, we have Timely Word for 2 and a white. You may cast this spell as though it had flash if it targets a commander. An enchanted creature has indestructible. And then we combo that with Thornbite Staff for 2 generic mana and 4 generic mana to equip. Thornbite Staff says whenever a creature is put into a graveyard from play, untap this creature. And the final piece to this combo is Predatory Urge for 3 and a green. It says enchanted creature has this creature deals damage equal to its power to target creature, and that creature deals damage to this creature due to its power. It's basically the fight mechanic. It's just with this combo we'll be able to murder the entire board. And then we have Impact Tremors to take advantage of some of our ETBs. Now that all of the obstacles are out of Vegeta's way, he can let his true power shine through. We start with the Gravity Training for 5 and a green. Its relevant text says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put 3 +1/+1 counters on target creature you control, and then whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 3 life. A Senzu Bean after that amount of training can't hurt. And then for the Rise to the Legendary Super Saiyan, we have Mythic Proportions for 4 and 3 green. Enchanted creature gets +8/+8 and has Trample. Then we have Majin Conscription for 8 generic mana. It says enchanted creature gets +10/+10 and has trample and annihilator too. And then when Vegeta breaks all of his limits and goes to Super Saiyan Blue, we have Colossification for 5 and 2 green. It says when Colossification enters the battlefield, tap enchanted creature, and enchanted creature gets +20/+20. And finally, we come to his ascension to the god of destruction himself. For red, a green, and a white, at the beginning of your upkeep, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. If you control a creature with power 5 or greater, then you gain 10 life. If you control a creature with power 10 or greater, then you win the game if you control a creature with power 20 or greater. To finish this deck, we look at Vegeta's finishing moves. We've got the Lucora gun for X and 2 red. It says deals X damage to each creature. And then we have the Big Bang attack for X and 3 red. Deals 4 damage to each of X target creatures and or players. Then we've got the Final Flash for 3 and 2 white. Destroys all creatures that aren't enchanted and they can't regenerate. And then we have Purification for 4, a red, and a white. Each player chooses 3 permanents he or she controls and then sacrifices the rest. And then we have his Gallic gun for 8 and a red. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature on the battlefield, and Gallic gun deals 13 damage to each creature. Now that we've seen Vegeta's deck, it's time to go over the average price. At time of release, it's between $193 and $247, depending on where you purchase it from. As always, if you go with heavily played or damaged cards, it's cheaper than that. And the stats for this deck, we've got 12 ramp, 4 tutors, 9 card draws, 9 forms of interaction, 7 board wipes, and 36 lands to round it off. This was a super fun deck to build. Little tricky to get all the points that needed to be hit, but overall I hope you enjoy it, Nitron. Remember, this is a crossover theme to build. With that being said, crucial cards for the theme were added regardless of price. Cards that were not essential to fit the theme were made as budget-friendly as possible. If you want to optimize this list, feel free to leave your upgrades in the comments section below. Most importantly, this deck is meant to be a new and engaging way to spice up your Commander games, so fun is the top priority. Thank you for watching this crossover deck tech. If you liked this video, check out our other content on YouTube or TikTok. Your viewership means the multiverse to the crossover Commander, and if you would like to become a part of this growing Terran reality, you can like, share, and subscribe. If you would like to vote on the next pop culture character to crossover, check out our Patreon where we have some awesome perks. If you have any ideas or complaints, feel free to leave them in the comments section below. Now that this portal's closing, see you next time.